Hey guys, we are back with you answering questions that we recently received from a women's conference when Kim and I got to share on the subject of love, marriage, and sex. And we got just a ton of questions that we didn't have time to answer, so we wanted to dive in. And we got a couple here that relate to talking to your kids about sex. And because I think in the context of one of the sessions we mentioned that we do that. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Absolutely.
There's not just one.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you how we've done it and our approach to it. Oops.
What does that mean?
That means that my battery's going dead. So, anyway.
Yeah, more than one way to skin a cat.
So there's a lot of ways to do this. I think there's a lot of ways to do it wrong.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of ways to do it right.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is as parents, you do it. You have the conversation.
Yep.
I think there's the rule of first. Whoever tells you something first is normally the expert, or you view them as the expert. And so, as parents, our philosophy has been tell them young. I grew up in a family where I was talked to young. Dad had to talk with me young, and we've just had that thought of now there is you want to do it with age in mind. We started even when our girls 4, 5, 6. As far as beginning to sow seeds, yeah, your body's valuable.
Yes.
Don't let other people. We started sowing some of those seeds at a young age, and then really when they got about the age of 10, it's kind of our marker for let's sit down, let's have
the talk,
the in-depth talk. Which there is not the talk. There's a talk
it's
in
a
the
conversation.
series. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
That's ongoing.
Absolutely.
One of the things I love that we do, maybe different than what I've heard others talk about, is we do it together.
Yeah.
Having girls, normally it's like, okay, dad just bows out and lets mom do that. Normally with sons, moms bow out and let dad tackle that.
And some I've heard where mom does it all or dad does it all.
Yeah. And there's been times where you've taken part in different seasons.
I'm a huge advocate for when you have the actual lay
talk.
it all out talk that both of you are together.
Yep.
Because even little boys, there's things that they're going to be able to relate to in their dad, and there's things that a mom brings to that conversation with
they
girls.
Need to hear a female perspective.
The girls the same way, and not only perspective, but I think it opens that door to it's okay to talk to both parents about this hard, uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you're laying that ground. And listen, the thing I get a lot when I say we both do it is, oh my gosh, there's no way because it's going to be uncomfortable or awkward or my kid will be uncomfortable. I get it. I do.
But the awkwardness is worth it.
It is worth it on the other side. But again, this is us. Do what you want.
Sure.
There's no right or wrong.
Sure.
We
We're
just
saying
feel
you have
really
to do
strong
it. That's
about
just,
it.
Yep.
It was worth it, like I said, mainly for the relational side, because we always want to sow relationship into every conversation. And I really felt like that laid a good groundwork to, not that the girls are probably ever going to come have a detailed sex conversation with you, but the hopes is that if something does happen negative in that context, that if I'm not around, they will still come talk to their dad.
Well,
so it's that foundation of it's okay to have these conversations and what's appropriate to say around men and women. So
there are aspects of it, especially with having all 5 girls, that you have led and kind of initiated, even how their bodies change into puberty, expectations. I've not really covered that because I don't really know, and I didn't have those experience, thankfully. Thank God. So anything you want to say to that?
No, I think that's just an ongoing conversation. Like we said, you start young. Kids ask questions young, so you answer what they ask on their level that they're asking, and then go from there. But the actual talk, which I think is what they're talking about, we do around age 10.
At age 10, we find a long trip. We lock them in the car where they can't escape from a moving vehicle, and we just kind of dive in, and we go all in with anatomy, emotions, hormones. Here's what's interesting is that especially if you have multiple kids, you'll understand that your kids are different. They have different personalities. They're wired differently. They're going to respond to this conversation differently.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of eye-opening that while one was grossed out and disgusted by it, another was intrigue, like asking questions and having conversation. Just the curiosity was different.
Sure.
And so just know your kids are going to handle the conversation differently. And I think, one, be truthful. I'm a big believer that kids can handle the truth. We shelter them too much. We protect them too much sometimes, and we don't give them enough credit of being strong. And I would rather our kids know the truth and grow up knowing the truth than feeling like they've been lied to. And there's an appropriate balance there.
Sure.
But we laid out there, from hormones to anatomy, relationships, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And the biggest driver is, for me, and I think for you, is to continually communicate their worth, their value, that they have a sense of self-worth in this, and that these things done outside of the context of marriage tarnish and can devalue. And it's not unforgivable. It's not, it's not the unforgivable sin. We don't make it that big of a deal, but we do try to communicate its importance.
But it is a big deal.
But it is a big deal.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even try to, at the age of 10, start painting a picture that anything that you do before marriage steals from your marriage.
Right, yeah. Yeah. What's so funny about that?
Nothing. So anything that
Sorry,
else?
I was reading to making sure we answered the questions.
Yeah.
One was, what age did you start? And we start at 10.
Start at
that
age
means 10. If you did it before, it's fine. Like I said, it's an ongoing conversation. Touch back. If you haven't had that conversation yet and your kid is past 10, I would definitely have that conversation as soon as possible. They may have already learned some stuff, and that's okay. You can course correct if needed, or add to that. You're always going to add to it your perspective. Yeah. It's not a lost cause, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. Don't think, oh, they're 14, I haven't had it, I probably don't need to have it now. Go ahead and have it. Yeah. Because again, it's that relationship base. It opens that door and creates that foundation of conversation and relationship. The next question that's around that same subject was, how do you start a conversation with your kids about sex?
Lock them in a car.
You just do it. It's going to be awkward and weird and funky.
It's
and
so uncomfortable.
You just have to just dive in and do it. Again, it's worth the awkwardness, and it's worth pushing through that. Yeah. It's worth the ultimate result. Yeah. So
the biggest thing that we want to achieve in that conversation, and the reason we feel like it's important, is, one, they hear it from us first. Two,
and if they can't hear it from you first, it's okay. They still hear it from you.
Yeah. Yes. It's better to have the conversation than never have the conversation.
Right.
The second is just, we want them to respect themselves and to respect others.
Yeah.
And having girls, I want to protect them and sow seeds into them that sex doesn't produce love. Love after marriage produces great sex, and because we live in a world that's built on, if you love me, especially guys can approach it this way in relationships. If you love me, you'll do this for me. And I'm just a big believer that if a guy truly loved a girl, he would never demand that for love. And so I want my girls to know that and understand that. And so that if they do find themselves in situations, they know that that's not okay. That's not a person that cares for me. That's not a person that values me. And I value myself enough not to allow myself to be demeaned like that or put down like that.
Right. And on the flip side of that, we try to teach our girls that their role in it, even on the before side, even while they're young, like 10 and 11 and 14, is to, you may put your hand on a guy's thigh, but what does that do to him?
Right.
And just their role in that responsibility, because right now they're not thinking about it. Right now it's just a hand on a thigh, but we're all there. One day it is about getting their attention, and it is about triggering those things. So I want them to have that awareness of, you go there, you're opening some doors.
Right.
But that's where that ongoing conversation is. So we have a big talk at 10. We have another one later, for sure, right before high school. Between that 8th grade freshman year, we're having another big one. I'd say a deeper dive. You can't really have much deeper than what we do at 10 because we go pretty deep, but we do retouch that conversation and recover stuff. but we do go deeper in the sense of, it it just gets real about that age.
Yeah.
Some earlier, some 7th and 8th, and I realize that there is stuff going on as early as 5th and 6th, to be honest. You'd be shocked at how
What
early.
would your perspective be here? Because I think one of the greatest fears that parents have, because they have a past and they had teenage years, and maybe they made mistakes there, that they parent out of fear, not out necessarily of purpose. So I'm fearful that you'll do what I did, so I try to overprotect you and overshelter you. And one of the greatest things that you can do as a parent, I think, is even open up about some of the mistakes that you made. Again, age appropriate. Like, we wouldn't do this necessarily with our 10-year-olds, but with our high school age kids, we might talk about failures that we had and the consequences. Because that's one thing you don't see as a teenager. In the moment, you don't see the consequences of that decision. You don't see the other side of that sin, or that it's like, what's the big deal? I feel this. Why is this? And so opening up appropriately, if you can, about even mistakes or things that you experienced, settings that you put yourself in, can be a really big help, I think, to, again, letting your kids, number one, know that you're not perfect, and that you've had to walk through that, but then wisdom learns from the mistake of others, not necessarily my own mistakes. And so being just transparent and being open, I think, can be a relational connection with your kids, and then can help them learn even from your mistakes. What do you think about that?
I've almost dropped that 3 times.
No.
It's open. Sorry.
That's okay.
I agree for sure, 100%. I think it goes back to 2 things. One, like we talked about earlier, just it's all for the sake of relationship and building that relationship, and furthering and deepening that, because to think nothing's ever going to happen is just silly.
Yeah.
Now, it may not happen as early as stuff happened to me, or it may happen after their marriage, but stuff's still going to come at them.
Sure.
So that's what I mean by building that foundation of relationship, so that if it's after marriage, they'll still come talk, hopefully, and get advice and not just shut down.
Yep.
And then 2, I think we talked about this in the conference session, just being willing to have some of those hard conversations, but knowing the timing of it.
Yeah.
So I would say absolutely be willing to open up, but be real sensitive to the timing of that.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily have it when you're angry, mad, whatever. That may not be the best time to share one of those vulnerable moments, because everyone's elevated and they're probably not listening. But knowing the seasons that your kids are in, we talk about the 3 seasons of raising kids, the 0 to whatever is
0 to 8, or
is the more formative teaching, but like when they're in high school, it's a little bit more hands open. You're still guiding, but you're not as much control and rule. Yes, we're still making decisions for them, but we want them to make some mistakes and learn within a safety net. So I'm 100%. So, I think it's good in the context that as things come up, if they're, wanting to go somewhere and hang out and whatever, and something happens, and even if it's a friend that got in trouble, that's a good way, a good conversation starter is, even if there's a friend involved, or if it's themselves, whatever it is, if it triggers a memory or a moment in your life, use that as a teachable moment
or even
for them.
We've been sitting and watching TV, and something comes on the TV, and
absolutely,
yes, we turn it off, but we also use that as a teachable moment.
Yeah.
That's not how we act, or that's not how we...
Or why.
Yeah, and we get into the why.
Why do you think that's wrong? Or do you think they should do that way? Not every show's that way. We don't dive into everything. But listen to the Holy Spirit.
That's a big one.
When they prompt you, when He prompts you,
I think God's Spirit will lead you and guide you in a lot of this in parenting. And you know when to have what conversation, and when to share what story or what mistake. Or biggest thing is have the conversation.
Absolutely.
And have it in a way that's based in love, and that you create room for imperfection. Don't demand perfection. Yeah. But
give them some room to
be human.
We're
Hey guys, we crashed at the end, so we wanted to come back and just say thanks for watching. If you got questions, you can Facebook us, you can Instagram us, send us a private message, lay out your questions. We'll tackle those if we can figure out the answer. If we know the answer, we may just come back and say crap. We don't know.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say crap, should I?
I think crap's okay.
Is crap okay? Okay. Anyway,
I don't know the
so
rules.
thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully it was helpful. So we'll see you next time. Here on the Q&A with Seth and Kim Swindoll.